Hello, guys. Welcome to Psych Minds. We are reading Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before by Dr. Julie Smith, continuing where we left off, chapter 31, Coping when it counts. We are so bombarded with information about how stress is bad that most interventions focus on getting rid of stressors and adding in more rest and relaxation. But what does that mean for the non negotiable events that cause stress? How do you face the surge in stress as you walk into a job interview or exam? How do we deal with those moments and stay on our game? When you are faced with a high pressure situation, all the wonderful research on how to calm and de stress starts to feel less helpful. You cannot rush off to engage in a deep relaxation exercise as your exam begins, and vowing to be less perfectionist as you enter the only job interview you have managed to get in months is not going to make you any less stressed. In these situations, what we really need are some clear tools for how to use the stress to help us perform and even learn from that experience. We need to know how to actively cope with the demands of those non negotiable high pressure situations. If there are times when stress works to our advantage, it is in these high pressure, short term situations. And so the goal is not to eliminate that stress and stroll into the interview as relaxed as you feel at home on the sofa. Instead, the key is to use the benefits of the pressure without letting it overwhelm you and have a detrimental effect on your performance. Mindset, your new relationship with stress. Research shows that how we think about our stress affects how we perform under pressure. A shift from perceiving the stress response as a perform problem to viewing it as an asset that will help free up that will help frees up those individuals to spend less energy trying to squash the feelings and instead focus on meeting whatever demands they face. As a result, they tend to feel less worried about the stress, feel more confident, and perform better. This mindset shift can be the subtle difference between despite how stressful it is, try your best, to when you feel the signs of stress, channel that energy and enhance focus to do your best. There is also evidence that doing this helps us to feel less exhausted by the stress. Strack and Steves, 2014. When we focus our efforts purely on reducing stress in the build up to a big event, whatever it may be, we are reinforcing the misconception that stress is the build up to a big event. We are reinforcing the misconception that stress is a problem to be solved. When you are trying to get somewhere and stress rears its head, take it with you. Let it help you to focus and energize and move with accuracy. You are built to perform under pressure, and that is exactly what you will do. Reminding yourself of this changes the meaning of those signs of stress that might otherwise be seen as symptoms of a problem. In fact, research shows that simply reminding someone that their performance improves under pressure improves their actual performance by 33%. Jamieson et al. 2018. Bad language. One way to change our mindset is in our use of language. The words we use can powerfully determine the meaning of a situation and our approach to it. Imagine you were a professional athlete and just before you left the locker room to compete, your coach said, "You are about to blow it." Not only would your stress increase, but your subsequent thoughts are likely to sound like catastrophizing thoughts that turn that stress into something that feels like panic. Social media is awash with daily affirmations and quotes, some of which may happen to hit some if they reach the right person at the right time, but what difference can they make? Some of them focus on what to stop doing or sweeping statements about what to avoid in life. There is a big problem with focusing in affirmation on what not to do. We only have the one spotlight of attention, and when we focus it on what not to do, that leaves little room to focus on what we do need to do for things to go well. Others focus on being purely positive. There can be uplifting, these can be uplifting, but only if you believe in them. Simply being told to stay positive or you are doing great is vague at best and offers no clear guidance on how to move through the challenge ahead of you. Dr. Dave Alred is an elite performance coach who works with many of the world's top athletes, helping them to perform at their highest level under extreme and very public pressure. When he puts together affirmations for his athletes, he makes sure those affirmations steer away from sweeping absolutes and remaining concrete and factual, something the player believes in. They clearly identify the key to the necessary mindset and remind them that keeping to the process will lead to improvement. When statements make it clear what needs to be focused on, they give us direction. Alred 2016 suggests starting with a how to statement, then vividly describing what happens when the process is right, and thirdly, conjuring up the emotional state that matches your intention. When stress is high and threatens to disrupt our concentration or ability to perform, we can prepare statements like those in advance to help us match our thoughts, feelings, and actions to our intentions. The type of demands you face will change the type of statements you need. The key is to keep them short, concrete, specific, and instrumental. Instructional, and for them to put you in touch with the feelings of the process that you may have practiced before the event. Reframing. We have covered reframing in other sections of this book, but this is also especially helpful here. Reframing is using the power of language or imagery to adjust the way you perceive a situation. You're not trying to convince yourself of anything that you don't believe could be true. You are simply trying to shift your frame of reference. Looking at things from a new perspective can enable us to draw new meaning from the experience and, in doing so, shift our emotional state. In the section on fear, we talked about reframing anxiety to excitement. In this case, we can reframe the sensations of stress to the feeling of determination or threat into a challenge. Changing just these single words transform that meaning without telling any lies about the reality of the physical sensations we face. With the latter words, we are choosing to embrace those feelings. With the former, we find them aversive and push them away. Focus. In high stress situations, we tend to get tunnel vision. This is supposed to happen as it helps us to focus on the most important demands. But if the sensations of that stress feel overwhelming, there is something that we can do to allow the body to maintain that high output while calming the mind. Ongoing research into this suggests that choosing to shift from that tunnel vision back to a more panoramic view calms the mind. This does not mean moving your head to look all around you, but just allowing your gaze to widen and take in more of your surroundings. The visual system is part of the autonomic nervous system, and so dilating your gaze in this way accesses circuits in the brain associated with stress and levels of alertness. Huberman 2021 describes how this is a powerful technique for getting more comfortable with higher level of activations. We don't want the stress response to stop because we often need it in high pressure situations. We just want our mind to be more okay with it, raising our stress threshold. Failure. When the pressure is on, it's often because the stakes are high. We believe the failure has big implications. This makes sense. When failure is interpreted as a big threat, the brain wants to focus on the threat to be sure we are avoided. If for those who tend to self-attack and after any failure, big or small, any signs of potential failure will likely lead to a spike in the stress response. We all have a limited capacity for attention, and when we need to perform under stressful conditions, we need to take full control of that spotlight and focus on what is going to help us face the challenge. To overcome that fear of failure in the moment and that preoccupation with everything that could go wrong, we need to immerse ourselves in a narrow focus on the process, leaving no space for worrying thoughts about potential outcomes. This is where it can help to practice ahead of time, if it is possible given the situation, and building a familiarity with the process and how it feels to walk through it. You can pre-prepare those guiding statements that will remind you of what to focus on. Expect if you okay, sorry. Need that on the day. If your process becomes a well-trodden path, you get the chance to build trust in that process. Depending on the challenge that we face and the realities of failure, we can use the same skill to reframing framing to change our perception of failure. Try this. If you want to explore this subject with journaling, here are a few prompts to help you guide. How do you respond to your own failures? Do you deny them and move quickly on, forgetting it ever happened? Do you immediately start on the self attack, name calling, and blaming something in your character? Or do you look outward and start blaming the world for making life so hard for you? If there is something that we don't talk about enough, it is how to cope with failure. When we believe that mistakes and setbacks are linked to who we are as a person and our self worth, then even the smallest of failures will trigger shame and the urge to give up, withdraw, hide away, and block out the excruciating feelings. This happens a lot for perfectionists. There is a focus on being enough in the eyes of others and assuming that those others demand nothing less than perfection. If I fail, then I am a failure. If I lose, then I am a loser. However small and temporary that setback may have been, but when we respond to failure without these global attacks on our personality and instead focus on the specific of the moments, holding our awareness that imperfection is an intrinsic part of our common humanity, the emotional result is different. Feeling guilty about an error in judgment or a choice made allows us to be honest with ourselves about where we went wrong without feeling doomed to being a failure forever. It focuses on the specific behavior rather than attacking us as a person. Crucially, you still take accountability for your actions. Self compassion is not letting yourself off the hook constantly, it is focusing on the specific mistake as an isolated event so that you are free to learn from it and shift direction back towards your values. This is the path to continuing to improve and moving on from mistakes. Shame, on the other hand, immobilizes and paralyzes us. Failure is always difficult and heightens our stress response. In times of stress, our negative core beliefs can become activated. Osmo et al. 2018. We start to entertain thoughts like, I'm a loser, I'm complete failure, I am worthless, I'm nothing. Those thoughts that this and the shame that accompanies them are very powerful in making us feel completely alone and isolated. We buy into those thoughts as facts. We think we are the only ones, and so we hide how we feel. But as it turns out, among the 7 billion people on this earth, these sort of core beliefs are part of a list of just 15 or 20 common negative core beliefs that are seen across the world. Essentially, this means that we are the opposite of alone. As human beings, the need to feel worthy of love and to have a safe group in which we belong is in us all. When we feel shame around failure, we can feel as if our acceptance and therefore our survival is under threat. It is an all consuming sensation that can stop us even trying to fix things because we believe that the problem is us rather than a specific behavior or choice. When we are going out into the world and taking risks, making ourselves vulnerable to shame, we need the skills to manage that shame and move through it. We all need a safe space to return to that allows us to learn from failures without our worthiness as a human being coming into question. That place has to be our own mind. When someone we love is suffering, we show them kindness because we know it is what they need. When we take a fall, it is time to do that for ourselves. It is the surest way of ensuring we get back up and move forward. But do we become less hostile to ourselves and become instead the voice we need to hear? Shame resilience. When we feel shame in response to a failure, there is often a huge thought bias involved. We take one event, action, choice, or even a pattern of behavior and we use it to make a global statement about who we are and our worth as a person. This makes a judgment on the whole person using only this specific information, neglecting every other layer of your strengths, weaknesses, and intentions. This is something we wouldn't do to someone we love. If someone you love unconditionally make a mistake, you wouldn't want them to write themselves off as a person. You would want them to learn from the experience and move forward, making choices that were more in line with who they wanted to be. You would still want the best for them, and so you would not subject them to a barrage of verbal abuse. Toolkit. Building shame resilience. Shame can be intense and extremely painful. Here is a list of tips for building resilience to the shame associated with setbacks and failures. Be vigilant about your choice of language. I am statements lead into those global attacks or characters, and your worth as a person that feed and re trigger the shame. When reflecting on what happened, stay very specific to the behavior that you consider to be a mistake. One behavior or set of behaviors is not the whole you. Acknowledge that you are not alone in feeling this way. After a failure or setback, it is normal for most humans to become vulnerable to feelings of shame and to focus on thoughts of self loathing. Those thoughts are seen across the world but are not necessarily helpful or accurate. Acknowledge that this feeling, while painful and intense, is also temporary. We can use self soothing skills to help us ride the wave of the emotion. Section 3 from page 109. How would you speak to someone you love who was in this scenario? How would you show them you love them while also being honest and enabling them to be accountable for their actions? Talk to someone you know and trust. Concealing shame keeps it going. Sharing it helps us to recognize the common human experience of shame after failure. Good friends can also help us to stay accountable for our mistakes, and because we trust them to be honest with us while continuing to accept us throughout. What response to this situation most fits with the kind of person you want to be? How could you move forward from now in a way that you would be proud of and grateful for when you look back on this time? Chapter summary. How we think about stress affects how we perform under pressure. Seeing stress as an asset that will help you enables you to spend less energy trying to squash the feeling and instead focus on the demands you face. Keep performance affirmations or mantras focused on what to do rather than what not to do. Adjust your focus to adjust your stress levels. Work on your relationships to failure and building shame resilience to help you deal with stress in high pressure situations. That brings us to the end of this chapter. Then there is part 8, which we will continue later. If you have any comments, any question on what we have just read, or even otherwise, if you have any suggestions, recommendations, anything at all, you can reach out in the comment section of the video you're viewing or in the community section of the YouTube channel. If you are new to the channel or you have not subscribed, do subscribe to the channel. And there are other readings that are available on the channel in the playlist section of YouTube. Go to Psych Minds, go to the playlist section, and there are other books that are available in the recorded version, so you can listen to it like an audiobook. So for example, you want to read In Therapy by Susie Orbach, you can see view full playlist, and from the first case to the last, all of it is there. Okay, bye bye for now. Take care, keep reading. Bye.